Hello, my name is Chrissy Marie, and I'm an embodiment practitioner, specifically with a focus in supporting other wellness practitioners and heart-centered high achievers in slowing down, growing up their inner people pleaser, and learning how to create inner balance and spaciousness by regulating their nervous system and tapping into the wisdom of play and simplicity. And I like to imagine that life is a garden, and I am the gardener. And in order for our garden to flourish, space needs to be carved out in order to nurture it. The gardener will take time tilling the soil, aerating the soil to make sure that the roots have room to grow and get oxygen, and spend time watering the seeds that they plant. And in a garden, if you have too many weeds, we know that the roots will choke each other. They won't have room. But also, if you have too many seeds in a garden, the same thing will happen. And an overgrowth of weeds occurs when we struggle to be with life's challenges in a way that softens and releases the tension in the soil of our beings. And if a gardener doesn't till or tend to the soil, it becomes very stagnant and compact. And the more tension that roots without release, the less space there is for the flowers of creativity and connection and clarity to bloom. Similarly, though, with an overgrowth of seeds, that can occur when we fill our garden from a space of fear of missing out, a space of scarcity, grasping at any shiny object and offering something that we feel might support us, but we haven't actually taken the time to check in to see, do we even have room to let it root? And sometimes seeds that are planted from a space of shiny object syndrome or scarcity, those too can become weeds. And there's always going to be weeds in a garden. That's just part of nature's design. So restoring balance and spaciousness to our garden is much more of a process than it is a prescription. It's an ever-evolving conversation that requires us really to listen to what the soil of our being is asking for. And in order to listen, we have to create space to hear our inner voices, and especially to tend to the parts of us that struggle to even feel safe with the idea that less can be more. And here's what's so often overlooked in that particular process of creating space. When a garden is overgrown, the process of creating space starts first by taking up space. By aerating and churning the soil of our being, untangling the roots that are ready to unwind, and then revisiting the seeds that serve us most. And when you think about what happens if a garden gets compact and the gardener needs to go in and aerate the soil, churning the soil can feel and look messy. When we let air into the soil, it can appear that there's even more to organize, where we're kicking up the dust, so to speak, inside. And what it requires of us is to sit with ourselves, dirt on our hands, holding our tangled roots and deciding to be with it in a different way. And if you've ever tried to untangle a fine, thin chain necklace, you'll probably have had the experience of pulling too tight potentially and noticing that the links actually bind together tighter when you pull. The more force you use, the more resistance there is, the tighter the knot that's created. And a gentler approach ends up working better. And so it is with the soil of our bodies. And in a very effective way to be with and untangle our root system and to begin to create inner space in our gardens is to intentionally, with presence and precision, be with our breath. And just like compacted soil needs air to become a luscious garden bed, so do our bodies need oxygen to detox and to circulate our life force energy and to create clarity. Very much like a gentle gardening tool, slowly raking through the compacted soil of our roots and the roots of our body, the breath starts to show us the weeds that are ready to release and the seeds also that we may have planted from that scarcity space that are ready to be released as well. And as this happens, we start to feel more. And in order to create sustainable space in our lives and bodies, we must be willing to feel fully. Instead of burying the weeds that we find, instead of putting the seeds back in the soil and swallowing our emotional expression, we must be willing, in order to feel better, to feel fully. And we might start by shaking or stroking our arms or humming or taking a big sigh or even sometimes crying. Starting to take up space with movement, with breath, with vibration. And we might let ourselves know it's okay and it's safe, and it can be helpful to name the parts of us that emerge as we settle into presence with ourselves, as we turn towards ourselves and become willing to look at what's there in the garden, acknowledging part of me is feeling angry, and that's okay. A part of me is sad, and that's okay. Part of me is confused, and that's okay. Part of me is tired. Part of me doesn't want to feel. Part of me can't feel. Part of me craves to feel. And that is all okay. Recognizing that emotions linger in our body when they're resisted. And it's this energy of allowing, this energy of it being okay, married with the breath, that becomes the magic gardening tool that allows stagnant energy to move and things that are no longer serving you to start to shift. And as this happens, we can learn to trust ourselves more and more, to know what's best for ourselves instead of what others might think or say. And the more we trust our own discernment, the better we get at bringing balance to our garden on a day-to-day basis, because we can hear in real time, this serves, this doesn't. I can delegate this, I can let that go. This is what I need to focus on. Remembering that it's really a practice of being with our garden. It's a daily practice of aerating the soil with breath and naming the parts of us that are present, as well as asking ourselves in the space that creates, what do I need to hear right now? What do I need to hear right now? And trusting the power of what emerges, often the simplicity of what emerges. So I've created a little meditation and a breathwork journey for you. It's a journey on balance and spaciousness, and an invitation and opportunity to go through this process of taking up space with your breath and self-expression in order to create space internally. And if you choose to go on this journey, I trust you'll receive exactly what you need, remembering that your process is perfect. You're right where you need to be, and everything is going to be okay.